guys, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Angela Shurina. I'm your host, I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best, recent, cutting-edge, most useful and effective brain-body tools so you could make better decisions, take better control of this most sophisticated machine in the entire universe, your brain, and shape your life experience as you want. And this episode, I could not be more excited to share with you during our holiday week, when soon, or might be already working on your New Year resolutions, or about to work on them, New Year goals and intentions. I actually don't know that many people who don't have some sort of practice, or at least don't have this thinking like, what do I want to do in 2024? What do I want to commit to? Where do I want to get better? What do I want to create? I'm like, maybe it's just my circle, but almost everyone aspires to be a little bit or a lot better and closer to their ideal self, to their best self, this vision of most profound self that a lot of us had in mind. And today, as you know, I was doing some research on what people care most about during holiday week, during the first weeks of January, and it turns out a lot of people working on their health, on their fitness, on their weight loss. And so I decided to talk about this and how to build better habits, how to resist the urge to go down to the old habits, the habits that we know don't work for us that well. Like, I decided to, first of all, share with you this book, Willpower, Rediscovering Our Greatest Strengths by Roy Baumeister. I decided to share with you this book and share the tips and the strategies in the book in relation to weight loss, in relation to better eating habits, better health habits that a lot of people, even in the book they mention it, find more challenging, more difficult. And heck, I've spent probably a decade of my life struggling myself with improving specifically eating habits that for me represented my own emotional struggles, and food has been this soothing tool that I used to make myself better, feel better when life felt that difficult. After a while, engaged in coaching and going through different coaching certifications and applying it to myself, doing different exercises, I learned better strategies to cope with all the challenges that life brings. And after that, my eating habits got better and better and better. But before that, I definitely used to struggle. And I can very well relate to the struggle, even though now, looking at me, most people believe that I'm some sort of a freak of nature because I look like on the cover of Fitness magazine 365 days a year. But that's been a lot of work, internal work, and also a lot of those tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you today. I kind of discovered a lot of them on my own, but now there is solid research again that you can learn more about in this book, Willpower, Rediscovering Our Greatest Strengths. So using, there is more than enough research. And today I'm going to be bringing to you all the tools that are based on research, the most effective tools to help you to change habits and have more willpower and exercise and apply more willpower where it matters, in the areas where you want to grow. So the book is not about weight loss or health, even though, again, there are quite a few examples on that. The book is about how to apply, how to create more of, how to train and exercise your willpower in a better way based on research. So you could not just change your health habits or fitness or eating habits to lose weight, but so you could also get closer to any of the goals you have. Like for me, a lot of business and financial goals are for this year, more than health goals that I've kind of, mastered at this point. Heck, been working on it for 20 years. Gotta be, get good at it. Plus, working with so many people on the same goals. But other goals still require work, and that's probably going to be true for each of us as long as we are alive. There is always something to work on. But anyhow, without further ado, Willpower, Rediscovering Our Greatest Strengths by Roy Baumeister. And also he has a couple of co-authors. So one of the people who I believe helped working on the book is the author of Freakonomics, one other book that tells you in numbers and different statistics and studies a lot of fascinating stories about the world and human behavior, by Stephen Dubner. He also has a podcast. But anyhow, let's get back to willpower. So the wisdom number one, what they discovered doing different research and studies and analyzing data from the most willpowered people, the more you use it, willpower, I'm talking about willpower, the less you're going to have. So the first and most important takeaway from this book, guys, that willpower is indeed limited. And so the more things you're going to work on, the more goals, the more challenges, the less willpower you're going to have left for each of them. That's why they say, don't set too many goals. 1, 2, 3, the less, the better, based on really good data. The less goals people have, the more chances they have to succeed with any of those goals. 1 is like perfect. 2, 3 can be challenging. More than that, you're almost destined to fail, because willpower, your ability to work on challenges is limited. And so the more you sprinkle it all over the place, the less you're going to have for each individual challenge. And so if your main objective, like identify that main objective, if it's weight loss for the next few months, it's weight loss. If it's health, if it's business, if it's relationship, whatever that might be, the less goals you have, the more chances each goal will have. So if you have just one main goal and you're going to be totally focused on it, guess what? You're going to have more willpower available to that and a lot more chances to succeed. So work on 1, 2, maximum 3 things. But again, the more things you work on, the less willpower you'll have for each of them, and the less success you will have. The second kind of fun notion about willpower is that food, and it's across the board for all of the people, food and getting some fuel, specifically fuels that create more glucose, like carbohydrate-rich fuels and things like raise our blood sugar faster, they actually increase willpower. So what it means is, if you are struggling on any specific day to get yourself to the gym, to resist the urge to eat, actually adding some food item, something that will raise your blood sugar, that will replenish your energy resources, will actually help you to create more willpower. But how do I recommend applying that? Don't go and eat a cookie every time you try to resist that cookie. But whenever you feel, for example, a craving for ice cream or anything that you're trying to avoid, don't go hungry. Go eat an apple. Even better, go eat an apple and have some tuna with it, some chicken breast, even though it might not be what you crave. But actually, you'll notice that very soon, especially combined with an apple, that you're going to be chewing and getting those juices and that fructose, that actually will almost instantly diminish your cravings. And when you apply the whole food rule, get your fuels from whole foods, again, like apples, and then even better with protein, because it's the most satiating nutrient. So the wholer your food is, the more it also takes to digest, due to fibers, and protein in general is very lengthy to digest. So the for longer, you're not going to have those cravings. So your hunger is going to be at bay. So when you feel like your willpower is going down, eat something healthy, especially something with fiber, something with protein, and it will help you. It will replenish your willpower. You think it's just cognitive? No, your willpower, and that's what researchers found out, highly depends on the amount of fuels that are available in your system. So when you feel like your willpower is going down, eat something good for you, especially something again with protein and something with fiber, like an apple. Eat some tuna or a couple of eggs. That is the best combination. So that's for replenishing your willpower real quick. And you think, well, geez, I'm trying to save calories, not add calories. But for most of you, and that's speaking from personal professional experience, the real choice is going to be either you eat something healthy now and diminish your cravings, or you're going to give in to those cravings and eat cookies or ice cream that are definitely not on the list of inspirational food for your weight loss goal, right? So eat something healthy, and long term, you're gonna keep getting progress and eating better, adding all the vitamins and minerals. Then the next one, when it comes to goal setting for weight loss, set directional goals. Don't fixate on precise numbers. First of all, weight loss, you do not work like a machine. So sometimes you will lose the weight that you plan to, and sometimes you won't. And some of it is in your control. But, making yourself starve just to lose additional 200 grams and then feel ravishing and eating everything inside and feeling like your willpower at its lowest, really not in your long-term interest. What I advise to all of my clients, okay, let's set a range goal for our weight loss. Instead of saying, I'm going to lose 4 kgs in the next month, 1 kg per week. Now let's say 2 to 4 kgs. And as long as we're moving forward, even 100 grams, especially, for women, you have your cycle, etc. Like on every single day, your weight's going to fluctuate depending on what you eat, how you slept, like how much fluid you have, etc. So set directional goals. And as long as you're moving towards your desired direction of weight loss in this case, you're fine. Just keep doing what you're doing and it will eventually come. And really, do you care? Does it make a huge difference in your life whether you lose it a little bit faster or a little bit later? To be honest, if you truly honestly think about that, it's best to make progress consistently and keep it. That's what's going to add quality of your life, not losing it fast and then feeling so finished and having no willpower and then gaining a lot of it back and just going on this roller coaster. This is like the most frustrating journey that most of people, especially women, are going through. And it psychologically and emotionally affects you a lot. So set directional goals, set range goals. You're always moving, progressing, but you don't feel defeated if you don't meet that goal. You're not a machine. You're not some sort of mechanism that can be predicted with this precision. So set those goals, and they will set you up for success and much better mental and emotional state in the long run. And guys, all that is important in life is long term. So set directional goals instead of precise goals. The next one, why boring meals work. And that again, based on the research and studies that I read in the book, and also from my personal and professional experience as a coach, being in coaching for 15 years. So in the book, Willpower, they also discovered, analyzing all the data and research, that the less decisions people make, the more willpower they have to then later resist urges. And so that's how boring meals, eating the same meals, help you to stick with the program. Not just because they actually reduce your appetite when you eat the same food over and over again. That reduces your appetite, folks, across the board. But also, you make less and less decisions. That's why I have the same stuff for breakfast. I have, like when I do grocery shopping, I buy different vegetables and I buy different protein and fruit, but the structure of my meal is the same. A lot of vegetables for dinner, for example, and protein, whatever happens to be in my fridge. That's it. The same herb and spice, and that's it. So eliminate decisions, automate decisions as much as possible, and that's how you actually preserve your willpower for when you really need it. So that's how boring meals can help you. Boring and the same meals can help you to create more willpower that you'll use when it really matters. The next one, on tracking food, exercise, your steps, your water, anything. So what research shows is that when we track things, when we look at our data over and over and over again, it makes us more self-aware of the actions that we take, more self-aware of why we take it and what's important to us. And that self-awareness, raising that self-awareness, that's probably how meditation also helps to resist urges. More of that self-awareness that is induced, created by tracking things, help us to be more aligned with our higher aspirations for ourselves. Like we start to be closer to that ideal self. We understand who we are, what we aspire to be, and how to make more of the aligned with that higher self choices. So tracking helps you to build more self-awareness, and that self-awareness helps you to to make better choices and use your willpower in a more mindful way and where it matters. So track things. With all my clients, I recommend tracking over the holidays, all the meals, all the food, not because we're gonna stay perfect with it or try to avoid all the festive foods, all the sweets, all the, desserts, all the delicious foods. No. But it helps us to stay self-aware, and the fact of tracking actually still helps you to make better choices. Those choices are not going to be ideal. Sometimes you just gotta have fun. But because you track things and you remind yourself with each tracking that this is who I am, this is my aspiration, this is what I want to do, this is why I do this tracking, this helps you to make better choices. Plus, after that, you have a lot of data to analyze, to create better routines, make better choices later, and to also realize, okay, I did this is how it affected my weight. I ate that much, this is how much weight I got, instead of feeling defeated and feeling like it's all magic and the holidays are just fattening. No, you ate that much food and that was the result. And you also create this clarity that doesn't make you feel like a loser. It makes you feel like life works. You take an action and it has consequences. It has results. There is no magic. This is what we did. This is what we got. And plus again, it helps you to build up self-awareness. By the way, guys, almost all of the tracking apps allow sharing. So with my clients share with me things like MyFitnessPal, where they track food activity, or another one of our favorite apps is Habit Share app. And that is when I assign certain habits to my clients. And every day they gotta log in and they gotta put a check mark when they do the habit, or no check mark, or the red check mark when they don't do the habit. And there is also the gray one, kind of like in between. So tracking that and then sharing actually makes tracking even more powerful. We human beings have this quality or tendency that when we are watched, when we are monitored, we do better than when we feel like nobody's watching us. That's just what happens to every single human being. The notion of being watched helps you to adhere to your better habits. So share that with friends, with someone who might keep you accountable, with a accountability buddy, if you have a coach, share this data, and you'll be surprised how much better you'll start doing automatically on all of your habits. By the way, guys, one of the things alcohol does is reduces that self-awareness. And that's how you start making worse choices, especially the choices that you are still building, conflicted about, that are not ingrained habits. So alcohol reduces your self-awareness, and that's why so many people, and probably you, find it difficult to stick with your better habits when you consume alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, just never got into the habit since I was a teenager. It was kind of bad history of alcohol in my family, so I never got into that. But a lot of my clients, I noticed, struggle, and here is the reason why. Alcohol changes your brain in a way that self-awareness, awareness of your own goals and aspirations and intentions, it's kind of gets fuzzy and foggy, and that's how you lose control, so to speak, over your habits, of your behaviors, because you're not really at that point aware of who you are, who you want to be, what you commit to. So that's on alcohol. Usually the more alcohol you consume, it's not just your health deteriorates and decreases, but also that willpower is diminished due to the fact that alcohol lowers self-awareness. The next one, willpower. So the book reminded me again of the fact, and if you read the book, it will remind you too, that people, the most willpowered people, like David Goggins of this world, or Jocko Willink, if you are into Navy SEALs, books and philosophy and training, Stoics, most willpowered people actually are really great at creating environment and building habits that make willpower less needed. Yes, when you create the environment that supports your better choices, when you build habits, that repetitions that become your automatic patterns, when you do that, you need less and less willpower. So willpower, you need it only when it's a choice that is a new one, you're building a new habit, you are getting of your comfort zone. Once something becomes habit, and that's where a lot of people don't understand when they're starting on their health journey, healthy eating, fitness journey, is that with repetitions, you'll feel like you need less and less and less, to the point where there is no work at all for you to get an exercise. You just do it. Or to eat healthy, you just do it. It becomes automatic behavior, and it feels like no work at all. And that's what most willpowered people do. They create the environment, first of all, to make it easy at the beginning to build the habit. Then they build the habit, and then what other people consider to be, think that those willpowered people to be something of a strength quality, or something that requires them to be really tough, it actually requires no willpower from their side. So when you see someone day after day after day working out in the gym, and they've been doing it for years, for them, they don't use any willpower. There is no need to use it once you build a habit. And that's where you want to get if you want to keep your habits for life. And that's what you want to understand. What feels like hard work today, if it's a new habit, not going to feel like a lot of work down the road. So don't get discouraged if new habit feels challenging. It's supposed to feel like that. But create the environment that supports your habit to formation, to make it easier. And then once you build the habit, after repetitions, depending, it takes different amount of repetitions to build a habitual pattern. They say from 18 to 254, depends on the habit, depends on the personality, depends on how your environment supports your habits, many things. But what you want to understand, once you build a habit, it doesn't feel like hard work at all. So build habits, build environment, instead of trying to willpower your way through. And things repeated become easy. Or at least they, in your mind, they feel like they're easy. The next one, kind of interesting one. I read about it here and there, but now I'm more convinced than ever, also reflecting on my own journey and when talking to my clients, that certain things, just for whichever reason, and in research also, they're not exactly sure why they work. Certain things work, but they work for all of the people. So an interesting part of the research, people who spend their time in orderly room, like when you do clean up your room, when you make your bed, when your desk is clean and not messy. Also, the same goes for morning routines, like when you start your morning with anything. It doesn't have to be exercise, but like for men, it can be shaving. For women, it can be maybe doing some grooming. Well, women almost always do some grooming. Maybe it's doing some yoga routine, maybe doing a meditation. So whatever it is, starting your morning with the same thing, creating order at the beginning of your day will help you to stick with your resolutions and with things that require willpower. So what research shows is when we create order, when we create routines, when we start our day was doing something right, and it can be anything, like literally anything that brings more order into your morning, then we are more likely to stick with our better choices that require willpower. And the same goes for things like if you set your table right before having breakfast, if you set your desk right before work, the more order you create, the less likely you will do things like procrastination or doing things that you know are not in your best interest, and the more likely you are stick with your better habits. So create order, create routines. It actually helps everyone to stick with their better habits. So order helps. If you find it difficult to resist some urge, let's say have a cookie or ice cream or whatever that might be, I'm like blanking, not having alcohol for somebody, not having cigarette, not perhaps calling a person that you know is not the best for you. Whatever you are trying to resist the urge, very useful and one of the most effective strategies is to distract yourself. And here in the book, they talk about this marshmallow experiment when they gave kids marshmallows, and the kids were, I think, like 3 to 5. And they told them, if you don't eat this marshmallow, we're going to give you 2 in such and such, in so many minutes or in so much time. And what the kids did, who, those small kids, they have not developed yet a lot of, willpower or even the understanding of the future and how little actually a few minutes are. So the kids who succeeded did one thing really well. They distracted themselves. They closed their eyes. They turned their back to marshmallow. They were trying to play with something. They did everything and anything to distract themselves. And those kids were the most successful with the experiment. They waited out and then got more of their marshmallows. And so from my coaching and my personal experience, that's what I also always did when I needed to cut the weight, when I was working on some goal and there was an urge, whether that eating a cookie, ice cream, or doing some behavior like binge watching Netflix, I would just do something to distract myself when the urge was the strongest, calling my mom, going for a walk, doing some cleaning, listening to some music. I would distract myself, and then in the next 5 minutes, that urge would disappear and I could keep what I needed to do, keep following my best intentions, my goals. And what you want to understand, the urge, that craving is very fleeting and it usually peaks and then it subsides, just like hunger or anything. And the most effective strategy based on research, based on studies, to distract yourself. Find something that you can distract yourself with. Sometimes you can take a shower, sometimes you can listen to the music. If you need to get out of the house, to get out of the house for a couple of minutes, and that's it. And then call your, mom, friend, dad, whoever that is. Distract yourself, and then you'll find that the urge subsides and it's so much easier to just keep working on your goal. Another fascinating part of research for me was there is actually like real data, and it works for all of the people, that shows that when you think about questions like why is it important to me? There is a quote, when it gets hard, remember why you started. I'd actually rooted in really good research now. Why? Remembering your reason, the meaning, the intention that usually is connected to your future self, to your aspirations, it actually replenishes people's willpower and helps them to stick with habits. So I always, at the beginning of our coaching, when things get hard, I also remind my clients to get back to their why. Why is this important? Why are we working on this? What does it mean for your future? What does it mean for your future, for your image of that future self, of your goals, of intentions, of your values? Why? And then it helps people to stick, to recommit, to keep going. And research shows it's a higher energy or higher level state. And interestingly enough, they compared it to how questions. How am I going to do that? Or how I'm going to, work on my goals, etc. That actually a lower energy state, and so that doesn't help one to stick with harder things during challenging times. So when you find it hard to continue and it feels maybe too challenging, too overwhelming, like you can't do no more, like your willpower is at its lowest, remember why you started, and actually a working strategy. So whenever you feel like mentally, emotionally, you're at your lowest, by the way, it usually happens at the end of the day. Your willpower is kind of like a clock or a sun. It goes up in the first hours of the day and then it goes down, and the less and less willpower is available at the end of your day. But remembering why you started will help you to get through the most challenging moments. Another one, I feel like it's kind of intuitive, but maybe not. So comparing ourselves to people is a very powerful tool, and it can work for you or against you, depending on what kind of circle you have around you and what kind of people you follow, let's say on social media, and who are your heroes, whether in your life or again on social media, perhaps in other sorts of media. So my advice is, and what I found works in practice, and for people, and also in this book, they talk about that. Compare yourself to people who you want to be like, who inspire your better self. Like for me personally, when I feel like I'm challenged, I'm in great shape, why don't I just, do less, or, eat a cookie when I want one, even though I know the cookie really doesn't mean a lot to me. So I compare myself to people who inspire me, who are better than me, who I just look at them or hear them talk or watch a video of them and they're like, yeah, I want to be better. I want to keep working that. I want to see how I'd be, or what I create in my life when I'm at my best self. Like one of those people for fitness, Alexia Clark, she's just has such an amazing vibe and in such great shape, 364 days a year. I'm like, I love being like her. And so whenever I feel that my immediate surrounding doesn't support the desire to express my highest self, I go and watch those people. Or I also like watching people like Rock, this actor and like huge bodybuilder, or he actually was a wrestler. So he has a lot of a motivational energy in him, and a lot of hard work, and just really amazing, inspirational human being. Also very smart, works hard in his acting career and in any realm that he starts working at. So I look at those people, I listen to them, I watch them, and then I have this like amazing energy. I want to be my absolute best and nothing less than that. And that is very powerful and based again on really good research. So whenever you feel like your motivation goes down, don't listen to the people who kind of unintentionally make you want to do less or give in to temptations or to lesser versions of yourself, but instead compare yourself to your heroes and ask yourself, like, what can I become when I commit every single day to expressing the best version of myself? Like, wouldn't that be interesting to see, right? So compare yourself to the people who help you to express your best self. That is a very powerful tool. Three more tools before we wrap up. These are actually really fun and very practical small tips for you to stick with your new healthier, fitter habits, your weight loss habits. First of all, bright line rules help better to stick with resolutions, with personal rules, with habits than fuzzy rules. What do we mean by here? Well, a fuzzy rule is something like, I'm gonna eat better. A bright line rule, I'm not gonna eat any processed sugar this year. And you can see, like, eating healthier, what does it actually mean? Can I still eat a little bit of, dessert here and there? Or it's like, there is still a lot of room of interpretation. Whereas bright line, I'm not going to eat any added sugar. It's very precise. And so then it's very easy to navigate the space. It's either yes or no. And when you're trying to build habits, to stick with some resolutions, when it still requires your willpower and it's challenging, bright rules work better. That's why, for example, abstinence from alcohol or cigarettes or anything, any substance, any behavior also works better than having those fuzzy rules, or sometimes maybe, or I'm not sure, it depends, especially when your willpower goes down, goes lower. Those fuzzy lines will create a state when you're not going to follow through, when you're not going to act out of your best intentions, when any excuse will have more power over you. So create bright line rules, at least at the beginning, when it's challenging, when it's hard, and you're still using your willpower to build those habits. Base them on, knowledge of yourself, on something realistic, but make those rules bright. Don't make them crazy, because that's how you self-sabotage. Don't try to be perfect in every single aspect, but create bright rules. If that's eating an additional cup of vegetables or fruit per day or per meal, and maybe per day if you're just starting out, then create that. Or not eating sugar after 3 p.m. That might be it, but create bright and very well-defined rules. It's like if you were to draw a square with black pencil over white piece of paper. That's what bright line rule is. It has no space for any other interpretation. You say it, you know it, and it's hard. It is not amendable or can be interpreted in many different ways. The next one, creating mental rehearsals or scenarios for before going into any situation. That I train with each of my clients, and I always train myself when I think the situation might be challenging and might challenge my willpower. So what does it mean? If you're about to go to a Christmas dinner that might be challenging for your resolution to eat better, you create this scenario. When I go to this party, if they don't have my favorite foods or any good choices, I'm going to stick with vegetables and meats, like, meat, fish, chicken. Or I'm going to stick only fruit for dessert. Or I'm going to eat everything, but only going to take 1 spoon of each dish that I want. So if it's a cake, it's a pasta or anything, 1 tablespoon. So again, bright lines, right? You see, there has to be bright line. Otherwise, in all this environment with temptations and maybe a little bit of alcohol in you, by the way, do not recommend alcohol for all the reasons, for the reason that we talked about, but create those scenarios and repeat them in your head. I call them mental rehearsals. If this happens, I'll do X. If this happens, if I'm offered a drink, I say, I'm driving or not feeling like it or taking medication, trying to get back on alcohol. So if I'm offered this, I'm going to say this. If I'm offered a cake, I'm going to say this, right? So create this rehearsals, these scenarios, and go over them again and again and again. And that actually in research helps you to stick with your resolutions and use less of your willpower to resist the urges. And the last but not less, I just kind of found it funny that I've been telling it to my clients, sharing it with my friends and family and using it for so long. And only now, I think the first book that mentioned it, that they also don't know why it works, but it works. Do it later strategy. So when I was on my own journey, taking this challenge of not eating any added sugars for a year, I would often tell myself when I felt an urge to eat a cookie or to eat ice cream or to overeat, actually also nuts and seeds, I would tell myself, you can eat whatever you want, but tomorrow. So sometimes I would even buy a cookie, buy a chocolate bar, buy ice cream, and I would tell myself, you can eat it, but not now. You can eat it tomorrow morning. And guess what? Not on a single morning I wanted that cookie. I want that ice cream. I would go do some exercise, have my breakfast, and plus, by the way, willpower, I already mentioned this, at its strongest in the morning. And so when in the evening I was at the lowest point of my willpower, and I would tell myself, well, I'm going to eat it. I can eat it, but I'm going to do it later, perhaps tomorrow, if I feel like it. And guess what? In the evening, my craving disappeared. And in the morning, my willpower was at its strongest. And I was closer to my self-awareness and all of my intentions. I was so much stronger at sticking with those intentions and resolutions and my goals. And I never wanted any cookie. I was kind of already after exercise and ate my breakfast. I'm like, I don't really need anything. And so for the whole year, I did not eat any sugar. And then after a year, I'm like, well, I'm not actually missing anything. And I look and feel my best. So why would I not continue? Now I can get some sugar here and there, especially when you go out to a restaurant, they add sugar everywhere. But guess what? It's not a big deal. And I never crave it. And I never feel like I need it. So in the book, they mention it for whichever reason, when they did this experiment and they offered people sweets, and one group of people was said like to eat whatever they wanted. One group of people was said to resist it, and the other group of people was said to tell themselves, or you can have it later, or they made them, told them that they're not going to eat now, but they can have it later. And so the group that was told that they can have it later, not just didn't eat that cookie or those sweets, then they performed on the tasks, like doing puzzles or something else that will usually take more of your cognitive power, that also actually diminishes your willpower. So they did the task and they did better at the task compared to people who resisted, just, were told to resist like those sweets that diminished their willpower, and they did worse on puzzles. People who said that they can have it later didn't have any, did better on tests. And the next day, when they were offered that, they ate much less than people who either resisted completely or were eating, ad libitum or as they desired. So there is something magical about this strategy. So use it and see what happens. It helped me to go through the whole year of no added sugars. And after that, my life was completely transformed in so many different ways. In this book at the beginning, they also say, if you can't control your blood sugar, you cannot control your emotions. Like your emotional regulation is very closely connected to your blood sugar control. And obviously eating a lot of sweets with that spike your blood sugar out of control more often than not does not help with that emotional regulation. Plus, a lot of us do use sweets and sugar to regulate our emotions where other tools are needed. All that to say, do it later works. Less sugary stuff creates a more emotionally balanced version of you that helps you with all the other goals, pursuits, intentions, and your desire to express your best self in this. alive. So do it later. This magical strategy that I've been using for many years now. And even now, whenever I'm at holidays, I'm like, Angela, it's evening, it's Christmas. You want that cookie? But guess what? You can have it tomorrow. So let's make an agreement. If you want it, you can have it tomorrow. And guess what? I never have this cookie. That being said, that was our book study. Obviously, I did not cover the whole book. The book is just fascinating with stories of the most willpowered people who even made a living out of it or created history, right? So pick up the book of Willpower, Rediscovering Our Greatest Strengths. If you have any questions, something to share, please do reach out, angela@brainbreakthroughcoach.com. By the way, there is a free session available to you if you want to create your own science-backed Health 360 strategy for 2024 and get my best offer for whole year coaching. Go to brainbreakthroughcoach.com/free session, brainbreakthroughcoach.com/free session. Also in the show notes, claim your free session, your free strategy session, Health 360 for 2024. Obviously, you can make it all about weight loss or nutrition if you wish to, or sleep or fitness. All of those things I help people to dial in and work on. So brainbreakthroughcoach.com/free session. What else, folks? In 2023 and 2024, the biggest thing that you can ever do for this show, share it with other people who you'd like to do better in life, who you'd like to succeed more and express more and more of their potential and their best self. So please do share a screenshot, leave us a review on whichever platform you get your podcast on. That is the biggest Christmas and holiday present that you could ever give this podcast and me, Angela Shurina, the host of this podcast. What else? Well, stay tuned for the rest of the holiday season. We're going to have another book study, a secret one. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be as equally transformative and good as this one. We're also going to have a guest. So stay tuned for 2 more episodes. And this year, well, actually, the last one's going to be on the 1st of January. And have an awesome holiday season. Work on your best self and use your willpower as your greatest strengths. Talk to you soon. Stay tuned and enjoy holiday season.